Warning: this content may be upsetting or disturbing to some audiences. Former convicts of Reddit. What did happen to pedophiles in prison? I was just in a high security felony wing of jail waiting for extradition to another state, not in prison at the time. Well, the few that came in were told to go to seg or get their fucking heads busted every day till they did. The one dude came in and refused to leave, was yelled at, spit on, and threatened until everyone had enough. 3 dudes ran up in his cell and threw him the most vicious beating you can imagine. I remember him crawling out of his cell and the dude pulling him back in for more. I could hear the bones breaking from 20 feet away. He died on the way to the hospital. All the guys that took part were there on murder beefs anyway, so the extra 5 years they got was worth it to them. This was an extreme case as the jail was overpopulated and they tried to sneak the chomas in Gen Pop because seg was full. Everywhere else I was incarcerated they keep the touchers far away from us. How do the rest of the inmates find out a person is a child molester? Do the chomas, new word I learned today, ever try to lie about what they did in order to be more accepted? I worked in a jail last year as their medical provider. They always know, word gets around fast. Usually the child molester cases are highly publicized. The nurses also always know, and, while they will still medically take care of a child molester, they hate them and won't give them what they want, extra mattress ton and all pain meds, unless absolutely necessary. This too. I've been to jail twice. Minor shit. Once for shoplifting in my teens. Once for trespassing quite a few years back. Got into an argument with my boss at work and he told me to leave but I refused. Cops showed up and escorted me out. Anyway, when you go to court they have a ton of people they having their case heard. It's rapid fire. If you've ever been to traffic court it's the same deal. You're one in a long line of people and your charges are read out for everyone to hear. So if you go in and even one of the other guys at your court hearing go in, word will spread fast. Spent 10 months in the Texas prison system for manslaughter. For your information, first offense and it was an accident, which is why it was a short sentence. They were typically berated and yelled at pretty badly. Most of them that stuck around the Gen Pop dorms were honest and just pervs. She was 16, he was 22. That kind of shit. We had one guy, raped both his daughters from 4 on up. Finally his then 14 yo hid her cell phone and recorded it happening to her younger sister. Spoiler, this is graphic. One night I woke up to pee and my neighbor, bed at my feet, we were in rows, pulled me back down. Told me not to go to the bathroom. I'm new to this and don't know any better and brushed it off. Anyways, 3 guys had the Chester pinned down raping him. At this point all I really saw was blood or shit and then his face. It looked like a sock wrapped around a broomstick shoved sideways in his mouth to keep him quiet. The scary part was the sound. There were 56 men in this dorm. There wasn't enough sound to wake up hardly anyone. All this lasted maybe 1 second and I went back to bed. I didn't sleep that night or the next at all. That man spent the rest of the time I had there with his hair down or swinging wildly at anyone who even looked at him wrong. The worst part is most everyone acted like it was normal and I didn't do a damn thing about it. I went with the flow. I lived in the same large, gymnasium-sized room for 5 months with him and could never look at him knowing I didn't help. Prison is hell. People act like it's what they deserve. If our government elects spend 1 week in a prison we would see reform so fast. I only made it because I was smart. A few well-respected people basically said this guy's not coming back, don't fuck with him, and I would build a tattoo gun or radio, steal from work. Guards never looked twice at me. I still got stabbed, got beaten and had to hurt a few people. For anyone wondering, I crashed going 14 miles per hour over the limit, 74 in a 60. My best friend didn't have a seatbelt on and flew out when we flipped. I doubt I'll ever be normal and can hardly live with myself some days. I admitted to the EMT to drinking 4 hours prior to the crash. I thought my legs were broken and wanted to be honest before I got pumped full of meds, and even though I knew I was okay to drive and the blood work came back negative, a cop had me saying it on video and I got charged with manslaughter. Apparently screaming sorry at the top of my lungs at my dead friend's body looked bad according to my lawyer, and made me look guilty. I signed a plea. Edit. Why do I feel bad for not help a child molester? Two rights don't make a wrong, and if you saw what I saw you wouldn't wish it on anyone. Wouldn't help the girls he hurt anyways. Ex of mine went to prison in Brazil. Said an offender came in after he was processed. Both the inmates and the guards dressed him in a dress, wig, put lipstick on him, put out cigarettes on him, and beat the crap out of him. Didn't know if he made it or not. They check into PC or they get the business. Most Chesters I encountered in jails and prisons were older, white guys. There were a few there for sexual relations with girls who were 15 when they were 18, and they are generally left alone, as it is a situation many people might find themselves in as an 18-year-old kid. Older dudes do not get that leeway though. They are beaten, extorted, robbed, raped themselves, or killed by the alpha inmates. They really didn't like to kill the guys at the camp I was on, as they are, like I said, older white guys. They typically have money on their books and go to commissary every week. They are an endless source of hygiene products and snacks. I've seen a line of inmates outside of a Chester's cell door with a list of items they each want him to order. For his sake, he better hope he's got the money on his books to satisfy all their wants. If he doesn't, it never ended well for him. At a county jail I was in northern VA 1997, they would bring food carts up to each block with the appropriate number of trays drinks for each inmate to receive one meal. It wasn't exclusive to Chester's, but if you saw a guy grab 2 trays back to back through the food slot, you knew someone either A, wasn't going to eat because of their crime, or B, they were put on a diet because whoever grabbed 2 trays thought that person was a bitch. Normally though, they would announce to the rest of the block whose tray they were taking to alleviate any potential confusion in case one of their boys was the guy going without. Funny part is, most people didn't even eat the food. They waited until everyone had access to their boxes. We were locked out of our cells in the day room every morning at 7:30 and made burritos, ramen, chips, meat, cheese, etc. for dinner. COs know what's going on. They don't really seem to care though. I guess overall they get it the worst. A lot of guys are there to do their time and go home, or do their time as drama free as possible. All bets are off though when it comes to Chester's. I kind of felt bad for them, tbh. What makes him so much worse than me? Sure, I didn't molest kids, but what makes their crimes of murder, armed robbery and rape any less life-changing or traumatic for their victims? I did see a Chester beat the absolute dog shit out of 2 guys in his cell one night though. That was pretty rad. Dude was like 26. Girl lied and said she was 19, 15, and he got some time. He ended up throwing one of them off the tear onto a table in the day room. I never root for sex offenders per se, but that was fucking awesome. Federal prison. Edit. Guys, please slow down with the hateful PMs. My accounts may be anecdotal at best. This is from one specific maximum security federal prison. There are so many different types of jails and prisons with varying levels of security and huge variables in population type. Obviously what I experienced doesn't mean that every single other jail and prison is like this. When you first get there, your counselor will ask you if there's any reason that you can't walk the yard or be in general population. This is usually where you make the decision to do your time in the SHU all alone, or take your chances out with everyone else. You do need to have a good reason though: child molester, gang issues, there's a hit on you from the last place you stayed, you're a snitch, etc. When you get settled in, the shot caller from your race will approach you. You're told something like this: you have 1 week to get us your paperwork so we can make sure you're not a chommer or have no Rule 35s. If you don't provide this in a week, we'll kill you. Here's a toothbrush, some snacks, some soap, let me know if you need anything. Chommer equals child molester. Rule 35 equals reduced sentence for snitching on someone. So, you show them your paperwork, and if you're clean you're good to go. If you don't show paperwork, or you're not clean, you will be killed within the next week. For some reason, new guys do not take this seriously. They either don't produce their paperwork, or they actually produce it knowing that there's less than desirable stuff on there. What happens to them? Stabbed 27 times all in a matter of seconds. Face head stomped on so hard until it just cracks open and gunk leaks out. Mouth jaw shattered with a pool stick or pool ball. 2 guys killed in about 60 seconds by a tiny Mexican holding just a bocce ball. Native Americans pretend like it's all good. 10 of them go into the sweat lodge for religious reasons. Only 9 come out. 10th guy had a clean gash in his head from a shovel. Cellmate hung the guy with a bedsheet to make it look like suicide. Why do these guys take chances with trying to be in general population? Because the shoe sucks. You're by yourself, no TV, 3 showers a week, no access to things like the prison barber, limited access to phones, video visitations, constant video monitoring to prevent suicide, and every 18 months they ship you to a new prison. If you're looking at 40 years for child rape, that can be a long time to live in those conditions. Sometimes guys will stay in general population knowing that they will get killed simply because they don't want to be there but can't commit suicide in the shoe. I work in a medium security state prison, and the short answer is nothing. Most COs are not allowed access to inmate records, and the ones who are don't usually spread it for fear of doing the paperwork involved with a stabbing. In our facility, inmates who act properly get a room to themselves, and this is by far the biggest deterrent to any misbehaving. Also, the saying here is in prison you can be whoever you want. Many openly lie for fear of retaliation. In the rare case where the info gets out, they will be shunned by groups they don't really affiliate with anyhow. They most often find a level of acceptance with the many religious groups inside. Also in my facility, rape is almost unheard of. The sex there is almost entirely consensual, to the point of evenly distributing the punks amongst the blocks. I was in different prisons from minimum to maximum. Where I live, it's a hate crime to assault them for their crime. The prison I did most of my time in had 1,200 inmates, 900 of whom were sex offenders. You couldn't make it through breakfast without seeing hundreds of those fucks. It was terrible. The Bible study leader had fucked his kids. Was not a good time. Do not recommend 1/5 stars. There was a child killer molester, Joseph Cornelius, in the same block of the same prison I was in, Cole TWP, in Pennsylvania. He had cut a 9-year-old's penis off and killed him under a bridge in Pittsburgh. He tried to live in the general population for a couple days but had an apple thrown at his face from close range. He opted for the protective custody after that. Peas. I was in prison for a marijuana conviction, right alongside monsters like him. How messed up is that? I was in county for 2 months. I second what people have said already. I don't know how, but word gets around that you are a chomo. I think it's either TV, these are generally high profile, or getting one of your people on the outside to look individuals up on the jail clerk of court's website to see what they are charged with. I saw one guy who was charged as a chomo, who later was found not guilty. Poor guy, suffering like this and you didn't even do anything. Inmates threw shit at him. Threw piss at him. Yell at him all night long. Just make his life miserable. Okay, what about dudes busted for kiddie porn? About 2.5 years ago, we had a SWAT raid on our house. My roommate, who I thought was an awesome stand-up guy, pillar of the community type that I trusted and considered a good friend, turned out to be a part of a major ring of child porn across the state. He wasn't making it, just trading it. Ended up getting charged with 5 counts of unlawful possession of materials depicting sexual performance by a child. Young, too, as one of the SWAT cops told us after they hauled him off. This ain't, I swear, officer. I thought she was legal shit. The majority of it was under 10, some as young as 2-3. Sadly, because he wasn't the kingpin of this ring, because he never made it or sold it, and we're pretty sure he rolled over on someone gave up names, they only gave him 2 years in prison. So how would someone like him get treated in prison? The first day I was in general population, I got to my bunk and found I knew most of the people in there from high school. I decided to take a nap since I hadn't been able to sleep for a few days when I was on suicide watch. I awoke to 2 guys getting their asses beat by I think 8 guys. COs came in and asked what happened and asked me who was involved. Of course I said I didn't see shit. They eventually found out who some of the people were and hauled all of them to seg. I never saw those 2 guys again, but the others were eventually brought back. One of the guys was in there for fucking a 14-year-old. He was 26 in a public park and the other was just helping out his friend. I was kind of scared for my own safety because I was accused of first-degree attempted murder and abuse of a child under 12 because my daughter had what doctors diagnosed as shaken baby syndrome. I was proved innocent a few months later though. I went to the website called Best Gore and I found actual footage of what is done to pedophiles and rapists. In a particular video I watched, they forced the end of a broom up the chomo's ass and beat him up and humiliated him. No one stopped the assault, not even the guards. Never went to prison at the point of the mountain here in Utah. Jail a bunch of times when I was younger, but my cousin and ex-boss work as COs there. In Utah they don't kill them because that's too easy and forgiving. Whenever a chomo comes in and the lifers hear about it, they mix a homemade cocktail of flammable liquid, cruel pin him down and strip him from the waist down and then light his nuts and dick on fire after covering it in the homemade gas. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.